What situation are you tolerating at this very moment? What situation are you looking at and you're saying, I know that I was put here to experience something much better than this? And what situation are you looking at that you're tolerating that you're not allowing yourself to say that out loud? By the end of this episode, I'm going to help you explore that as we talk about the tolerance link and how that applies to our spirituality on our spiritual odyssey and how that applies to our money. All right, before we get into today's episode, I am Tamara Tamu. This is the Unleashed Alchemy YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being here. If you are new here, hit like and subscribe. I forget to say that, but you know what to do. You already know what YouTube likes. Okay, so just hit the like and subscribe button. If you're going to be here watching, just subscribe, right? So we have been on this series where we are talking about money and our money identity, our abundance identity as cosmic beings. Our spiritual odyssey and our money go together. We deserve to live a soul fulfilled life. When I say that all the time. I am talking about all aspects of life, including money. We tend to want to exclude money for so many different reasons that we have already talked about on this series. I think this is part 11 in this money series. So if you're new, I invite you to start with 1. Meet us back here in 11, okay? So let's get into it. The tolerance link. When we accept less than what we desire, it becomes part of our identity. It becomes a part of not just how we relate to money, but it becomes a part of every single aspect of our life. It becomes how we live, okay? This tolerance for a less than ideal experience translates into our careers, our relationships, businesses, finances, which can lead to a very stagnant way of living. Being in that stagnant mindset, operating from a lens of simply tolerance, simply survival, simply just having just enough, or just being happy with being satisfied, which there's nothing wrong with, but there is this thing called expansion, okay, that we're deserving of. So when we are stagnant, when we have accepted and tolerated certain things and situations, it hinders us from exploring new ways to experience life and money beyond what we know or what we think we know, what we have known. So, how religious programming plays into this is that we were always taught growing up. I grew up, if you've been watching this, and not just outside of the series, but if you've been watching my channel, you know I always use examples from my religious background and growing up in a religious cult. We were always taught that if you were in a situation, which most of the time many people were, and it seemed like the situation never ended, it was always like one thing bad after another. But if you were in that situation that was less than ideal, we were always told, well, that's God testing you. Don't try and get out of it. Wait for God to move. Wait for God to move. So it kept people bound. It kept people looking up into the sky for some God to come and rescue them, not realizing that the God was right here, right here, right here, right here in the mirror. Looking in the mirror, there was God. There was the God that was going to rescue them. All right. So now, with me growing up, becoming an adult, I had these periods of this chase for employment that would pop up in my life from what I could see. Hence, it was what my ego was familiar with. If I needed money, it was get a job, even though I had a desire to build something for myself, to be an entrepreneur, to be this business owner. That's what I desired. That's what I knew that I wanted. But because it was familiar for me to have money through a job, trading my time for money, I could not, that's what I tolerated because I could not step out of that identity. So, growing up, becoming an adult, being an adult, it seemed as if the question, the significant question was, well, do you have a job? If the answer was yes, then that was good enough. It didn't matter whether I liked the job. It didn't matter what the job was. It was, do you have a job? Yes. Okay. So I went through this pattern of accepting these low paying shit jobs just because they were tolerable, or if they were considered decent paying jobs, I accepted that because with a decent paying job, that came with a decent health insurance package, right? Okay, you see where I'm going with this. Now, there would be times when I would be asked, well, do you like your job? And when I answered no, either one or two things would happen. My no response would either encourage an onslaught of concerning questions about why I didn't like my job, or I would get a comment formed as a question, well, can you tolerate it? And that always struck me as if tolerating any unpleasant situation is a healthy way to exist. But when you are programmed in a certain way and tolerating is what you operate from, that question would make sense. That justification would make sense because it fits what the ego is used to, what the ego is accustomed to. All right? So, also, this translates over into relationships, right? So, what I saw a lot of, and I even did this with myself as an adult, but growing up, I saw people who would get into these relationships, and then marriages, relationship, depending on how you look at it. They would get into these relationships, and it was very clear that something was awry. Well, then they would come into, the service, the church service. Now we're back into religious programming. And instead of saying, this is not what I want, this is not working, this is not healthy, this is it, this has to end. Well, then they were told, well, God put you together and you have to tough it out. That is programming. To tolerate a situation that is unhealthy, and we're going beyond what is, unhappy moments. We're really talking about, okay, this is unhealthy, this is not right, this needs to end. But people were given the message to, if they were to break up their marriage, they were breaking up the family, they were hurting the children, and stay together for the children. I heard that a lot in the church. That is programming. That is a tolerating link that we have applied to our money. We justify situations that are not aligned with our soul. Even though we may not articulate it that way, by telling ourselves, we justify accepting intolerant situations by saying, well, Life is not supposed to be perfect. Well, let's look at that. My and I want to examine that phrase because from my spiritual awakening, it caused me to even question that belief. Well, who said life wasn't supposed to be perfect? Where did that story come from? Is it a life rule to expect imperfection? We can see worldwide that life has not been perfect for millions of people. Okay? Did our collective conscious belief in that story that life is not supposed to be perfect, did our collective consciousness belief in that story help to create these imperfections, and in some areas grave imperfections that we've seen? Even to answer that, to even explore that more, would go beyond the scope of this series, go beyond the scope of my YouTube channel. All right, it's way too nuanced, but you see how we need to start examining. I bring that up to for us to understand that we have to start observing where we get these stories from. These stories are not ours. They are programmed ideas, self-limiting concepts that we don't have to carry. We do not have to tolerate going to a job that we don't like. We don't have to tolerate our bank accounts being at a level that we don't like. We don't have to tolerate that. We are goddess. We are gods. Sorry. We are gods. We have creation power. We are creation power to be able to call forth the unseen into the seen. It is our abundant right to be overflowing in all things good, including money. To tolerate something, we can throw the badge off. We do not have to carry that badge. It is not healthy physically. It's not healthy emotionally. It's not healthy mentally. It's not healthy spiritually. And that is unnatural for us as cosmic beings. So I want to ask you this question before we end this episode. I want you to ask this question: in what areas of my life have I tolerated what I did not want? In what areas, we can phrase it another way, word it another way. In what areas of my life have I tolerated less than what I desired? And you can end that cycle, not only for yourself, but you can end the cycle for your bloodline. Now, that's a totally different topic. And if you've been here, you know we've talked about that as well. So think about that question, observe it, write your thoughts down, write how that feels in your body. And don't forget that if you are looking for more one-on-one support, I offer one-on-one sessions to help you through your spiritual odyssey. Book a call with me and it's a complimentary call so that we can talk through some things to see the ways that I can support you on your spiritual journey. Okay, so the link to schedule a call is in the description box of this video. Also, Tales of a Money Maven, How Religious and Other Programming Has Fucked Up Your Money. It is on paperback, now on Amazon. Okay, so buy the book, schedule a call. All right, I am here to support you. Until next time, cheers.